Hello everyone, and welcome to Open Source Friday. Super excited to have you all here, and I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Hello and good afternoon to all those Australian New Zealand viewers. Good morning to everyone over on the Indian APAC time zone, and good late Thursday evening to everyone who is over on the US time zone. We've got Thor Web Devs here from Singapore. Hello from Singapore. It's, I believe, morning-ish on a Friday in Singapore, so good morning to all the Singapore people. Also, apologies to those people who are in the meetup group, and we're hoping that we were live an hour ago, but time zone issues on the meetup groups put it an hour time shifted due to our daylight savings happening in Australia, so I hope it hasn't thrown too much of a spanner in the works for you all. But welcome anyway, and we're super excited to have everyone here. And we have a very, very special guest with us today, again from Singapore, which is awesome. So again, amazing APAC time zone people. We just absolutely love it. And today we have Jefferson from Vue Stripe Checkout with us. How are you today, Jeff?
Hello, everyone. Good morning, and good day, and good night to everyone around the world. Uh, my name is Joff, and I'm the maintainer of Vue Stripe Checkout. I'm based in the Philippines. Yeah.
I just love the chat too. They're just saying that daylight savings is Halloween Sunday this year. It's like, ooh, spooky. I work in a global company, and the daylight saving and time zone shifts have been super annoying. So we definitely want to thank all our viewers who are tuning in, and also to Jeff, who's here with us from Singapore time zone. Still Friday morning, but we're really happy that you could give up an hour on your Friday morning to come and chat to us on the Open Source Friday here at GitHub. So, would you like to tell us a little bit about your project first? Now, obviously, you are one of the maintainers of Vue Stripe Checkout. So, would you like to tell us a little bit about what Vue Stripe Checkout is?
Right. So Vue Stripe Checkout is actually a Vue JS plugin for Stripe Checkout. I've been maintaining it for about 3 to 4 years now, I guess, and it started out just a personal plugin for my personal use, but then started to notice that few people are using it, and started to gain attention, and people are also posting issues, and issued feature requests, all that stuff, and yeah. So uh, I actually decided to get serious about it, and yeah.
Amazing. And we hear from a lot of our open source maintainers that a lot of them start maintaining projects because they started wanting to use it first, or they built something for their own personal use to start off with. And so would you like to tell us a little bit about how you actually got started with Vue Stripe Checkout and what you wanted to use it for in the first place?
Right. So I was working for a startup company, and they actually wanted a feature that will have a subscription method, and we searched for some products, and then we stumbled upon Stripe. So Stripe is actually really good because the documentation is really clear, and it's very easy to integrate, and so we decided to use it, and then so yeah, I decided to create a plugin. So because we're using it on different websites, so I wanted the code to be reusable, and so I decided to create this plugin, and I publish it on npm. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
And we see Stripe used a lot across a lot of different platforms. There's some people in the
Mhm.
chat saying Stripe is headquartered in San Francisco, and yes, I believe you are correct. And we do have a amazing Stripe team here in the APAC region, which is fantastic, and a lot of websites are using it. So, can you give us a rough idea of how many different projects, platforms are now using Vue Stripe Checkout, and what specifically are they using it for, and how does it make it a really good added bonus to what Stripe already provides?
Well, I'm not really quite sure about the number, but according to the information in my repository, it's used by at least 400 uh, open source projects on GitHub, and actually it's very convenient to use because I have this feature that uh, it will load the actual SDK when you actually just needed it, so you don't have to load it all the time, you know. Yeah, so I guess that's what's special about it.
And you've got like I'm just checking out the website now, or technically your GitHub repository. Just checking this out now. So if anyone wants to
Right.
go check out the GitHub repo, I'll pop the link in the chat as well. But as you mentioned, yeah, used by over 440 people, which is amazing. And you got 20 contributors at the moment. So if I was wanting to come in to contribute to your project for the first time, what kind of top tips would you give me first, and then we'll talk through like an example? But what's the kind of top tips you would give me as a first time contributor coming to Vue Stripe Checkout?
Right. So first, you of course you can just start with an issue, but I would suggest that you should put as much information as you could, so that uh, I will have an idea of what's the issue is about. So like, is it a bug report or is it a feature request? If it's a bug report, it's better if you have a screenshot of the error and a detailed description of the problem. So so that it will make it easier for me to debug or to solve the problem. If it's a feature request, because sometimes this plugin gets behind to the actual Stripe SDK. So sometimes they have a new feature and it's not yet implemented in here. So just provide the link to that new feature, so that I can easily look it up and have a plan on how to implement it. That kind of stuff. Yeah, I think that's it.
Nice. And if I go and check out some of your issues, I see you've got the Hacktoberfest label
Yeah.
on your issue. We've got a couple of days left of Hacktoberfest. So how have you found Hacktoberfest this year?
Well, sorry, what's that?
So Hacktoberfest, we've got a
Mhm.
couple of your issues are labelled with Hacktoberfest. So
Right.
how has your community kind of responded to Hacktoberfest, and how have you found Hacktoberfest this year?
So far there's no uh, Oktoberfest related pull request yet.
Oh, okay, so
So
just the one
yeah.
issue, no
Mm,
pull request for Hacktoberfest. But if you were talking to some first time contributors, not necessarily to maybe your project, but to
mhm.
anyone, what are kind of the top tips you would give to contributors who are finding a project or coming to a project for the first time? Like you've mentioned, like coming and giving really, really good information on what your issue is or your feature request. But
Right.
what other kind of tips would you give to first time or people coming to open source?
Right. So first of all, the most important thing is to read the documentation first. So just to make sure that you're not posting something that is actually already written in the documentation, and y- you have to be nice to the to the maintainers, of course, and yeah, just I think the most important thing is just to give as much information as you can, so because it helps us the maintainers and to determine what's up.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about documentation. Let's have a quick look at your documentation because I like
Hmm.
seeing really nice documentation. And if we have a look at your README file, it's very nicely laid out. It feels like all the information is there you need. Like as a first time person coming to a repository like yours, I can see exactly what it does and what
Hmm.
it is. And then if we have a look at your contribution guidelines, because I see you've got those as well, this will give me a lot. Also, your code of conduct and your guidelines. This gives me a lot of information about what to do, how everything works, and I think this is like a really good example of a nicely set out project, this is your contribution lines I was looking for. Oh, page not found. That'll be there, so we can fix that later. But you mentioned a couple of things about being really nice to the maintainers, and you've been maintaining Vue Stripe Checkout for how many years now? A couple of years?
3 to 4 years.
Yeah, 3 to 4 years. So you would have a lot of experience as a maintainer, right?
Right.
So what are some of your like top tips for people who are maintaining projects?
Just be clear of just be clear of what things you wanted to or like the issuers to put. So it's really good to have a issue template. So for first time issuers, they should know what to actually put, what you're expecting them to input there, and just create a good documentation, because it uses the time for users to actually ask some questions, all that stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you've got a community of about 440 people using Vue Stripe Checkout now.
Yeah.
So how have you built up this community?
Actually, I didn't actually do something special. I I'm just waiting for issues or updates, and then I implement them, and then people are just coming, because actually Stripe is getting popular as years go by. So especially in countries that they support. So, and actually also Vue. So it also goes for the popularity of Vue. So the more people uh, started to use Vue and Stripe, they surely come to my project.
Mm-hmm. And if we talk about, you talked a little bit about like, you got involved in doing this project because it was something that you wanted to do yourself, and then you opened it up to others. If we talk about your journey as a developer, how did you start developing code, getting involved as a developer, and how did you get involved in open source to begin with?
Right. So I have a background in computer science, and I started out as an Android developer in my early years. So, and then I converted to being a web developer, because that's what my company requires at that time. We're just a small team, so you should you tend uh, to have that skill to switch on different technologies. And so the first time I got into open source was it was when I created a plugin for Angular 1. So it was way back then when Angular 1 was the best platform in the in the world. Yeah. So I think what made me decide to stick to open source is that time when I realized that my project is actually helping others. So it's not just me, but actual people uh, from different places are actually using them. So yeah, I think that's it.
So you kind of went for it then. I think you kind of touched on the popularity of Vue as well, as a platform, as a plugin, as a framework, and we're seeing it more and more become popular. So, is there a specific reason why you chose to write this open source project in Vue?
Well, because mainly because we are using Vue.js as our main web platform. There was a time that we had to choose between React and Vue.js, but we decided to use Vue anyway. So yeah, most of my open source projects are built on top of Vue.js.
Nice, and it seems like something that is, as you did mention, growing popular. We had someone on a couple of weeks ago who built Hopscotch, and he did the whole thing in Vue.js simply because he wanted to learn Vue in the first place. So, how did you come to Vue as a framework? Like how did you start learning Vue and want to learn Vue?
Well, it's not actually a matter of want. It's a matter of need because the company requires it for us to use it. So we actually switched from as I mentioned, we were using Angular 1, and then Angular 2 came out, but we're not actually quite satisfied with how they made the changes. So we look for some alternative, and React and Vue.js was one of the choices. So yeah, we did some research on what would fit us the most, what would benefit us the most, and we went to use Vue, so we chose it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I like the fact that you said you came to it because like you didn't necessarily want to. It was a need. You had to do it. I think that's
Yes.
really so we need to learn this thing. Someone go learn it. So what are some of your tips to people who are in that kind of situation that where you've got one framework that you're using and you need to find an alternative? How do you go about finding that alternative, and how do you then like dive in and start doing, and what are your tips to people who are in that kind of situation?
Right. So basically, first step should you should determine your problems and what you actually need, so that you can know what to search. And The next step is to look for options. So you have to do a lot of research to see what are the good options that you can choose from, and yeah. So just basically weigh in. Uh, as for us, we were the main uh, attribute that we are looking for a framework was uh, it should be easy to learn and easy to implement. So that's why instead of React, we chose Vue.
Yeah, and I've noticed that I think one of the popularities about Vue, right, is its ease of use. So I did
Yeah.
a Vue. I needed to learn how to write a bit of Vue. I was like, yeah, I needed to learn it. One of our websites is written in Vue, and I was like, oh, I do need to learn about this. And I found Vue Mastery, and I was able to build from scratch a website in 3 hours. I didn't have any Vue experience whatsoever. So I think that was one of the things I really like about Vue. And we've got a question coming from the chat actually about Vue Stripe Checkout. And that's do you actually need to sign up with Stripe first to be able to use your plugin?
Yeah. It's actually required because you need this publishable key from their dashboard, and it's required to in the plugin to work.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Do you want to talk us through a little bit about how it actually works in the back end? Because obviously Stripe, as you mentioned, has a really good API and plugin, and you've built this on top of it. So do you want to talk a little bit about how it works from the back end point of view?
Right. So uh, there's actually multiple approaches that you can take when you want to use Stripe Checkout. There's this they call this client only integration. So that's the part where you don't need any backend experience or any backend. Just create the products and in your Stripe dashboard, and just get those IDs and lay them out in your front end, and then manual checkout. And there's also this uh, an option. This is what they recommend actually. Uh, Using sessions. So in the back end, whatever you're using in Node.js or PHP or what, uh, you should create a session, and then that session will have a session ID, and then that session ID will be used as the main property in the client side, so that will detect that ID will determine what products you actually created in the backend.
Mm-hmm. And
Mhm.
have you had a lot to do with, I mean, obviously Stripe is quite a large, big, and popular platform. So have you had much to do with any other maintainers who are building other Stripe plugins?
Yeah, I actually there's also this project called Vue Stripe Element. So, but I think it's inactive now. So I also managed to create some pull requests in that project, but they never get merged.
Yeah, I found it. This one, is this it? Another one
Yeah,
on
yeah,
NPM? Yep. Vue Stripe Elements Plus.
yes,
Says published a year ago, and it looks like people are still downloading it. Whether it's actually being maintained or not is another question. So,
yeah.
um, do you want to talk to us a little bit about how well Vue Stripe Checkout works with other plugins, and how many other plugins can you have with Stripe, and like how does that kind of side of it work?
Right. So user checkout is actually centered on the checkout feature, but I also created the basic implementation for Vue Stripe Element. But I'm planning to create a separate project for the more advanced implementation because they actually updated that, and I have to catch up to the updates.
Mm-hmm. I
Mhm.
remember we've got some questions in the chat about various Stripe payment methods. So there's the link for all the Stripe payment methods. I think there's a bunch of them. But yeah, there are a lot of people using Stripe for various different platforms. And obviously they've got, if you scroll down to the middle of their table there, they've got a whole bunch of different payment methods depending on where you live. So obviously we're in APAC. So it takes a lot of those main kind of platforms there for APAC. So yeah. Now, what are some of your plans for Vue Stripe Checkout moving forward? Are you going to continue to maintain it? Obviously, you've got version 3 now of Vue Stripe Checkout. So what's kind of your next stage or your next goal or plan for Vue Stripe Checkout?
Right. Uh, I'm actually in the middle of a major upgrade right now. So like there's new documentation coming, and I'm also, like I mentioned, I am planning to create a separate project for Vue Stripe Element alone. So, and I also created a new organization, and I will move these repositories in that org. And yeah, so Vue Stripe Checkout will be soon renamed to just check Vue Stripe slash checkout, and there will also be a separate project or repository for the elements. And yeah, moving forward, I'm always planning to maintain it as long as I can.
And are you looking for more contributors to come on board? Is that something you're always like kind of on the lookout for, or how do you like to run Vue Stripe Checkout from that point of view?
Yeah, sure. I think any type of contributions is welcome, and I will really appreciate it if some of you guys can help me with these new updates. So I laid out a plan actually in my one of my blogs, so of what to expect for this coming update. I'm calling this update the year-end update. So my timeline is like until December of this year.
Well, that'd be exciting. Are there secrets on what that update's going to include? You kind of touched on a couple of them, but what can we expect from the next big update?
Uh, the next, well, I'm also pretty excited about the new documentation. So
Mhm.
it will be transferred to. Uh, right now, I'm looking at Slate. Are you familiar with that Slate.js? Yeah. So yeah,
Not too
uh,
much. I'm still like relatively new to the whole JS world, but I'm
mhm.
getting there.
Yeah. So yeah, the documentation. Mhm.
Hmm. Sounds good. And when you're like going through and you're building your project and you're building Vue Stripe Checkout and you're maintaining it, where do you kind of draw a lot of your inspiration from? Do you are you following other projects regularly? Do you contribute to other projects regularly?
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually a regular contributor to open source. So if there's something, if there's a new repository or there's a new project that I find interesting, I
sometimes go through it and look for what to improve, all that, and yeah.
What are some of the ones you've done, just say, in the last month?
In the last month, I there's this project for QR code. So and the maintainer is obviously not Vue JS developer, and but he has this example for Vue JS. So I just improved the code so to make it like Vue more to make it more Vue like, uh, you know the structures and all the, yeah,
And it
that's the.
sounds like Vue is definitely one of your main languages, and you mentioned Angular as well. What
Mhm.
other programming languages do you like to write in?
Mainly I'm coding JavaScript, but these past few weeks I've been learning Flutter because we also have to create this mobile app for the company. So I'm learning Flutter.
That was Flutter, right? Yeah, that's one of
Mhm.
the. I think Flutter is now in the top 5 of open source
Yeah,
projects. So that's a
I
really good
think so.
one to know,
Mhm.
especially if you're into contributing. So, and what I love about a lot of our the maintainers we've had on the show is that they're like you. They don't just maintain their own projects. They're contributing back to open source as well. So I want to really encourage everyone in the chat and who's going to be listening to this recording afterwards to get out and to contribute to open source, because there's really cool people like Jeff who are involved in them. And also, as Jeff mentioned, he's really, really keen for people to come and contribute. And it's only 2 more days left of Hacktoberfest. And I see that your project is tagged with Hacktoberfest. So feel free to go and jump on and make any contributions to Vue Stripe Checkout for Hacktoberfest. Are there any specific contributions that you're looking for here, Jeff? Like something that would easily get your approval on a pull request?
Right. So maybe just this current documentation I have is actually updated because there's a recent update from Stripe.
Mm-hmm.
So while waiting for the new documentation, it would be great if someone can implement that new update in this current documentation. I think that's fine.
There we go. Go and jump on board with that and go and update some documentation. It'd be a nice, easy one for especially those first time contributors to come to. I'm just thinking, what else am I looking at here on the screen? I'm just checking out all the really, really cool Vue Stripe checkout ones. Got an interesting question from the chat. I'll ask it. Feel free to say that that's not relevant. We don't have to talk about that.
Okay.
But we've got a question in chat about 5G, which is really random. But do you think 5G will make native mobile languages less necessary? Because obviously we know Vue is written, like a lot of it's written for very nice mobile interactivity as well. So is that something you'd like to comment on? Feel free to say completely no as well.
Right, right. No, it's fine. Actually, I'm a fan of progressive web app, and I think this new technology, the 5G, will really help people to appreciate mobile web more. So, but I don't think it will make the native mobile obsolete because there's still these features that the web app can do that that is available in native platform.
And it sounds like you do a lot with mobile web app, and it sounds like you kind of like the mobile web app development. So, what are some of your tips for people who are developing on mobile? Because if you look at a lot of websites, you notice that a lot of them are not designed very well at all for mobile use, and a lot of them haven't thought about their usage of their app on web and mobile. They've only designed something for the web and haven't thought about the mobile experience. So, what are
Right.
some of your tips for people who are developing either a web app that would be going to mobile or developing a specifically mobile app?
Right. So first of all, the the, the most important thing is uh, to look for something that's already ready made. So like Bootstrap, you don't really have to reinvent the wheel. So because uh, a lot of people are actually contributing their valuable time to create these things for us to use these amazing technologies like I mentioned, Bootstrap. So it's really amazing because it's mobile ready already, you know. So unless you really have to, you can write your own, but uh, it would be really unnecessary. Just use some already existing technologies like Bootstrap, and then in my case, uh, I mainly use Beautify. So that's the most popular CS framework for Vue.js. It's also material design, and yeah, I think that's it. You can utilize what's already available.
And I think that's one of my favorite things about coding, and especially about open source, is most of the time you don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's stuff that's already there, that's already built, and you can build on top of that. You know, like 70% of the world's software is built on open source
Yeah.
anyway. It's just that little bit extra that you're building on top, right? And so when people are coming to build something, depending on what it is, what's some of your tips for finding that baseline, to find that thing that they don't have to reinvent the wheel? I mean, often we get a lot of questions like, hey, that's great that we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but where do we find the wheel in the first place?
I see. So yeah, in this kind of stuff, I think it's really easy to draw the line. At least for me, because uh, oftentimes the specifications for what you have to create is already being laid out, for you by your or say your senior engineers, the architects and all. So uh, you can always do some research if this thing is already existing. So, and I think most of the time, uh, if it's not really something new, I'm sure that there's a already existing library for it. So yeah.
That's really cool, and again, that's what I love about open source, is being able to find all these things and go for it. And that's one thing I like about hackathons as well, is, you know, again, don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can build something really cool in 3 days by building on top of other people's stuff, basically. Now, I want to have a quick look at the open source guide. It's just popped up on your repo, and I was like, oh, we should talk about that. And that's this guide about all these top tips for contributing to open source, finding projects, starting projects, best practices and things like that. So I'm talking about, again, a little bit about finding projects. So how have you made it easy for people to find Vue Stripe Checkout?
Well,
And
I
what
think it's
other
I
tips would
think
you give maintainers for making their projects easy to find?
just create uh, a repository in GitHub, because I think GitHub is a really actually good way of handling SEO for searches, and I'm sure that when your project matures, and people will eventually find it, especially when uh, some are already using it. Mm, yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Like, you know, being able to have that platform, right? We often get asked, you know, what is one of the biggest advantages of GitHub? And it's like there's over 50 million developers on the platform and over like 120 million repositories. Like, there is so much stuff on there, and we've built up this big community. And I'm super happy to hear that that's one of your top tips, is just put it on GitHub. That's what the community is, and that's what, you know, something I find, you know, really, really amazing. And so one other question I did have for you is, obviously this isn't a plugin for Stripe, and you mentioned that Stripe has, you know, a lot of great documentation and things like that. Do you have much to do with the Stripe team itself, and how, like, has the team been helpful in you know, helping you get this plugin off the ground?
Yeah, actually, recently, I'm quite surprised that they contacted me. That they told me that they want to start backing up the project financially. So that's when I started to, get things together again, because uh, I realized that people are actually relying on this project, and I felt that sense of responsibility to to maintain it more seriously. And actually, the guys from Stripe are actually very helpful to me because there's some things we actually had a call recently, and they gave me some tips on what I can prioritize in the documentation because they're planning these changes and all that thing. Yeah.
Amazing. It's really good that I love it when companies do that, where they prioritize people who are building really cool stuff for them. So that's great to hear that they're super responsive. Now, I just want to touch on something that you kind of mentioned a little while ago, and you brought it up just now, is that people are using this. It's such a great plugin. You want to maintain it as long as possible. How have you kind of future-proofed this repository? Have you done things like, have you added a co-owner? Have you thought about what happens if you can't maintain it? Have you built it up so that other people could take over for you?
Right. So part of the major changes or the major update that I'm planning is to transfer this to a public organization, and I'm planning to give uh, Stripe to an admin access to the repository. So just in case that something happens, I think that's the best approach that I can do.
And you kind of mentioned it before as well. Like, you've already got other maintainers or other contributors involved as well. So I'm assuming like a lot of those are going to continue to contribute. But it's something that we like to talk about a little bit at GitHub, is the bus factor, which means if you got hit by a bus, what would happen to your project? And if the answer is it dies, then it's the kind of like, oh, okay. So it sounds like you've got a really good roadmap for Vue Stripe Checkout. I'm really excited to hear that it's going into a public organization as well, and you're giving Stripe access. I think that'll probably allow more people to get involved, which is really exciting. And have you got a name for that public organization yet, or is it already set up? Like, where will we be able to find Vue Stripe Checkout after you've made these changes?
Right. So I called it Vue Stripe. So you can actually find it right now because it's already available. So
Okay.
it's Vue Stripe.
Here we go. Vue Stripe. Oh, there we go.
Yep.
Awesome. It's already there.
Yeah. I just started out to transfer this demo.
So this is really exciting. So this is where all of Vue Stripe Checkout is going to live, correct?
Right.
And are you planning, you kind of mentioned just a little bit, but are you planning on building other Stripe plugins with Vue.js that are not just the checkout plugin?
Yeah. The because right now the elements part is actually included in the same package, but for me it doesn't make sense because the name of the project is Stripe Checkout, but so I'm planning to create a separate one for that, and maybe in the future if Stripe releases new features in the web, so we'll see what I can do.
It's really exciting. I'm so glad to see, 'cause we've had a question in the chat actually about was this a personal project or had it been coming from the community, and that's really exciting that you've started it as a personal project, you're building it into like an organization, building this community around it. I think that's one of the things I love seeing about open source. And I know you've only got a few minutes left because you've only got an hour, and again, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today on Open Source Friday. Before we let you go and continue on your Friday morning, what are some of your top tips for people who are just sitting there in the chat or sitting there watching going, hey, this stuff sounds really cool, I want to be involved too? Whether that's, I want to learn Vue, I want to be a contributor, I want to get involved in open source. What are some of your tips to people who are sitting there going, I want to be like Joff?
Well, first of all, the first criteria, I guess, is to find something that you will enjoy doing. So if that's I will assume that the viewers are all, most of the viewers are developers. So if you think this is something that you will be happy doing, I think that's a good starting point, and then you can just find something. Uh, you know, you can just start to create anything you want actually, as long as to test the waters, it will work for you and all that. And you can also start by jumping into already existing project. Talk to people, collaborate with them, and yeah.
And do you have any tips on where to go to start learning Vue.js?
Right. So the Vue documentation is actually really great. So you can just go ahead and to their website, and yeah, I think it's pretty self-explanatory there. So just follow the guides. I promise you, VJS is really easy, and I'm sure you will get started in just a few minutes.
That sounds really good,
Especially
and
if
I
you're
think, yeah, like as I mentioned, I started learning a bit of Vue, and it's been really exciting and really easy to jump in and grab a hold. So yeah, I really just encourage people who are just sitting there, just going, just gotta get in and do it. Find something you're passionate about. Jump in, read the documentation, just start contributing. So again, thank you so much for your time today, Jeff. Thank you for giving up an hour on your Friday to come and talk to us on Open Source Friday, and we hope that we see more really exciting things out of Vue.js. We hope you get a few contributors out of this, and we also can't wait to see you launch the next exciting phase of Vue.js with the community org and things like that. So all the best, and yeah, we'll hopefully see you next time.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for
All right.
having me.
No, our pleasure. Thank you again so much for being on. All right, thank you everyone for tuning in to the chat today for our Open Source Friday. Again, apologies for not fixing the time zone on our GitHub virtual meetup group, but I know most of you are here now anyway, so thank you so much for bearing with us there. So speaking of, you can jump on our meetup group and join our meetup group. We put in all our meetup groups for all our Open Source Friday, our regional meetup groups. The next one we've got coming up is Floss and Code. So we've got lots of really exciting things in there. And no worries, never apologize for talking too much in the chat. We love the chat talking. Usually we've got a few more, but again, apologies on that time zone issue. We'll ensure that's fixed for next time. So I'm sitting on the Australian now daylight saving time zone, and everything on Meetup just happens to run on American time. Everything's always for America. Like, what the heck, people? Anyway, we'll fix that for next time. So make sure you jump on the Meetup group to find all our meetups. Also, you can follow us on Twitter for all the updates, but the best way to do it is just to follow us here on Twitch, enable the notifications, and then jump in when we go live, because that's the best way to do that. So we want to thank you all for being here with us for Open Source Friday. Aussie, oi, oi, oi. Oh, where can you find, yes, thank you so much for asking, where can you find Jeff? So here's Jeff's GitHub profile and also Jeff's Twitter profile. So please make sure you go and check out Jeff, follow him. He's pretty awesome. He's got some cool things happening, and obviously he's a really awesome maintainer who's been doing this really cool stuff with Vue Stripe Checkout, and hopefully more on Vue Stripe stuff and plugins and things to come as well. Again, if you ever feel like it, feel free to follow me as well, Mish Manners, on all the platforms. Again, I do a bit of live streaming myself over on my channel. We do some code. So I did mention I'd been learning some Vue.js. We actually did all that live on my Twitch channel, so that was an interesting experience. So that was really fun. But again, we hope to see you all next time for Open Source Friday. So for those of you on the American time zone, you will have, I'm just double checking to see if there is no Open Source Friday for America this week, but you've got next couple of weeks coming up, there's a Floss and Code one for the American time zone. So again, go check out our meetup group for all the next things that are coming up. And also, I'm going to do a quick plug as well, because we've got GitHub Universe coming up really, really soon. So make sure you go and sign up to GitHub Universe. This is amazing global developer event that we've got running. It's Obviously going to be a little bit different, not running it in person, but it's going to be still really fun anyway. Then we've got 3 tracks running this year. We've got the developer track, the enterprise track, and the university track. I will be one of your hosts for the developer track, so I'm really excited about it. So make sure you come along to that. Yeah, just click sign up. Again, it's all virtual, so good thing about being virtual is everything's pretty much free. So we hope to see some of you at GitHub Universe. So with that, thank you all for being here. Thanks for tuning into Open Source Friday. I hope you all have a wonderful Friday, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you everyone so much. Bye.